welcome back to the deep dive. I
Yeah.
want to start today by asking you a question. I really want you to be honest with yourself.
Okay.
How many times in the last week, or heck, maybe even just the last day, have you felt that specific heavy sensation in your chest that we politely call stress?
But which feels a lot more like being completely trapped.
Exactly. It's that feeling of running and running and running, but you have this sinking feeling you're not actually getting anywhere.
Oh, absolutely. It's the defining mood of the modern age, isn't it? Your calendar's full, your phone is buzzing constantly, but there's this sense of what is all this for?
It's the hamster wheel. And our usual response, when we hit that wall, is to look for a modern fix. We download a new app, we read a book about life hacks.
Or we just numb out. We scroll on our phones for 3 hours.
Totally. But today, we're going to do something completely different. We're going to look for a cure for this very, very modern feeling of burnout in a place that seems, well, frankly, it seems completely counterintuitive.
We're going way back to the 7th century.
And to a monk.
To a monk, yes. Saint Maximus the Confessor.
Now, I have to admit, when I first saw 7th century monk on our research list for today, my skepticism radar just went off. I thought, okay, sure, a guy living in a stone cell 1,400 years ago, what could he possibly know about my life?
Right. What does he know about my mortgage, my email inbox, my kid's soccer schedule?
Exactly. It feels like a total disconnect. But, and this is a huge but, when you actually dig into the life of Saint Maximus, and specifically the text we're looking at today, the Liber Asceticus, or the ascetic word, you realize this man was not writing from some peaceful, naive bubble.
He wasn't in some quiet garden just contemplating flowers.
Not at all. He was writing from the absolute center of a maelstrom.
And I think before we even get into his advice, we have to establish his, for lack of a better term, his street cred.
Yes. If I'm going to take life advice from someone on how to handle suffering, I need to know that they've actually, suffered.
And Maximus, while Maximus qualifies, he didn't start as a monk. He was born into the aristocracy, incredibly brilliant, highly educated.
He was a big shot.
A very big shot. He rose to become the first secretary to the Emperor Heraclius in Constantinople.
So that's basically like the White House chief of staff.
Essentially, yes. He was at the absolute peak of political power, of wealth, of influence, in what was then the most powerful empire in the world. And then he just walked away.
Gave it all up?
Gave it all up to become a simple monk. But the world didn't leave him alone. He got dragged right back into one of the most intense political and theological firestorms of his time, the monothelite controversy.
Okay, you're going to have to give us the explain like I'm 5 on that one.
The short version is the empire was falling apart, and they were trying to create a kind of theological compromise to hold it together. They said, okay, Jesus has 2 natures, God and man, but maybe he only had one will, the divine will. They were trying to downplay his humanity to get everyone on the same page politically.
And Maximus wasn't having it.
Maximus said, absolutely not. He basically argued that if Christ didn't have a real human will, if he didn't struggle and choose and suffer like us, then he wasn't fully human.
And if he wasn't fully human?
He couldn't heal our humanity. For Maximus, this wasn't some abstract debate. It was about the very possibility of our salvation. He refused to compromise on the truth just to make things politically convenient.
And this is where the story gets really, really brutal. Because the same system he used to be a part of, the empire, it turned on him.
Viciously. He was arrested, he was dragged through these show trials, he was exiled, and then, when he was an old man, over 80 years old, the authorities decided to make an example of him.
It's horrifying to even think about.
They publicly tortured him. They cut out his tongue so he could no longer speak the truth that he was defending. And then they cut off his right hand so he could no longer write it.
An 80-year-old man, they did that to an 80-year-old man.
And then they exiled him again to a remote fortress in what is now modern-day Georgia, in the Caucasus Mountains. And he died there shortly after, from the wounds and the exposure.
So, when we open this text, the Liber Asceticus, and we read his words about finding peace or loving your enemy.
We are not reading the words of some tenured professor in an ivory tower. We are reading the words of a man who was literally mutilated by the people he was trying to save, and who somehow found a way not to let it destroy his soul.
That changes everything. That makes me want to listen. If anyone has earned the right to talk about this stuff, it's him.
Exactly. He's the ultimate expert on how to maintain inner peace when the outer world is quite literally tearing you apart.
Okay, so let's get into the text itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's found in this collection of writings called the Philokalia, and you said it's not a lecture, right? It's set up as a dialogue.
Yes, and that's what makes it so accessible. It's a conversation. It's between two people, a brother who's a younger, less experienced monk, and an old man who is the voice of wisdom. We assume it's Maximus himself.
And the brother,
Mm-hmm.
he's basically us.
He is totally us. He's not some super saint who has it all figured out. He's confused. He's struggling. The whole thing kicks off with him basically saying, "Father, help me. I'm a mess. I've been trying to do this spiritual life thing, but I feel like I'm getting absolutely nowhere."
I identified with him so hard. There's this one part where the old man is laying out all this wisdom, and the brother just interrupts him and says, "Father, please, give me a short word. My mind is weak and I can't remember all of this."
It's the most relatable moment. It's the ancient world's version of, "Can you just give me the TLDR? I'm completely overwhelmed."
Yes. So let's follow that conversation. The first big question they tackle is the diagnosis. Why are we like this? Why are we so unhappy, so anxious, so fragmented?
And the old man takes us all the way back to the beginning, to the fall. Now, we all know the story from Genesis, Adam and Eve, the apple, the snake.
Right.
But Maximus isn't really interested in the fruit as some magical object. He's interested in the psychology of what happened. He describes it as a catastrophic shift in our attention.
A shift from what to what?
He says that originally human beings were created to be in union with God. And for Maximus, God is, spirit, intellect, the source of all life and reality. Our focus, our inner eye, was supposed to be fixed there.
Okay.
But we turned away, we looked down, we shifted our attention to what he calls sensibility.
The five senses.
Exactly. The material world. What we can touch and taste and see and hear and feel. We became obsessed with matter. And this obsession, Maximus argues, created a mechanism that traps every single one of us. It's the cycle of pleasure and pain.
Okay, let's unpack that because it's so central to everything else he says. On the surface, seeking pleasure doesn't sound so bad. I like a good meal, I like a comfortable bed. What's the problem?
The problem isn't the good meal itself. It's the attachment to the pleasure that the meal gives you. Maximus explains it like this. When we turned away from God, from our true source of life, we tried to find life in material things instead.
So he started looking for fulfillment and stuff.
We started eating and drinking and buying things and getting praise, thinking, this will make me feel alive, this will make me happy. And for a moment it does. That's pleasure.
Okay, I'm with you so far.
But, and this is the hook, this is the trap, material things are, by their very nature, unstable. They run out, they break, our bodies get sick and old, the stock market crashes. The person who praised you yesterday insults you today.
So every single time you attach yourself to a material pleasure.
You are simultaneously, automatically introducing the fear of pain.
Because you know deep down that you can lose it.
Exactly. If your sense of well-being is tied to your job title, that's the pleasure of glory or status, then you have just signed a contract that says, I hereby agree to live in constant low-grade anxiety about being fired or demoted. You cannot have the pleasure seeking without the pain avoidance. They are two sides of the exact same coin.
That is the hamster wheel we were talking about.
Yeah.
That's it right there. We think we're running toward pleasure, but what we're really doing is running away from pain.
It's the hedonic treadmill, and Maximus diagnosed it 1,400 years ago. He says this just dominates our lives. We are terrified of pain, poverty, sickness, being criticized, feeling uncomfortable, so we just frantically chase pleasures to try and soothe that fear.
But the more pleasure we chase, the more matter we need, and the more we have to lose.
And the more terrified we become of losing it, it's a self-perpetuating cycle of anxiety. It's a closed loop.
And the text says this leads to corruption and death.
And again, he's not just talking about physical death, being buried one day. He's talking about a kind of spiritual deadness right here, right now. A soul that is trapped in that cycle is, for all intents and purposes, dead. It has no real freedom.
You're just a slave to your own reactions.
Totally. You're a puppet.
Yeah.
Someone insults you, you have to get angry. The market drops, you have to get depressed. The strings of pleasure and pain are pulling you all over the place.
That is a pretty grim diagnosis. He's basically saying our entire default operating system is corrupted. We are fundamentally wired to look for happiness in a place it can never be found.
That's exactly what the old man tells the brother. We've forgotten God. We've become ignorant of our true cause, our true source.
So if that's the disease, this addiction to sensory pleasure and the crippling fear of pain, what's the cure? This is where the dialogue pivots to the incarnation, to Christ. But it's not presented as just a theological checkbox. He describes it as a very practical, strategic intervention.
Yes, this is the genius of Maximus. He's always connecting the highest theology to the deepest psychology. He asks, okay, how do you break a closed loop like that? You need someone who can step inside the system, but not play by its rules.
What do you mean, not play by its rules?
Well, Christ enters the human condition. He is fully human. He gets hungry. He gets tired. He feels grief. But because he is also God, he doesn't need material pleasure to be happy. He doesn't need glory from other people or a comfortable lifestyle to feel alive. He already possesses the fullness of life within himself.
So he's free from the pleasure hook.
He's free from the pleasure hook. And that's the key. Because he's not attached to pleasure, he can voluntarily step into the pain side of the equation without being destroyed by it.
He chooses to suffer.
He chooses all of it. Poverty, hunger, rejection, betrayal, and ultimately the most agonizing death imaginable on the cross. But here's the miracle, the strategic move. He does it without hate. He does it without despair. He accepts the pain, but without the underlying attachment to pleasure that normally causes suffering to crush us.
He basically short-circuits the whole machine.
Exactly. He proves, for the first time in history, that it's possible for a human being to suffer the loss of absolutely everything, every material comfort, every bit of your reputation, even your own physical life, and still remain spiritually intact, still remain united with God. He broke the chain that connects suffering to spiritual death.
Okay, that makes sense. He broke the mechanism. But the skeptic in me immediately asks, that's great for him. He's God. But what about me? I'm still stuck on the hamster wheel. How does his action actually help me get off?
And this is where the old man gets super practical with the brother. He says that Christ didn't just come to do a magic trick for us to watch. He came to give us an instruction manual. He came to show us the pattern of a life that actually works.
And the brother, who is our stand-in, asks, okay, what are the instructions? Give it to me straight.
And the old man says simply, keep the commandments.
Which, of course, prompts the brother to panic again. Which ones? There's so many, I can't remember them all.
So the old man, seeing his distress, condenses everything. He says all the laws, all the prophets, all the thousands of pages of scripture, all the ascetic practices, they all boil down to one single principle.
Love.
Love. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and your neighbor as yourself.
It sounds so simple. I mean, we've heard it a million times. It's on bumper stickers. It can feel like a cliche.
It can, but I cannot stress this enough. When Saint Maximus talks about love, he is not talking about a warm, fuzzy feeling. He's not talking about an emotion. He is talking about a radical, complete restructuring of the human will.
Okay, let's dive deep into that. Because love is probably the most overloaded, misused word in our language. We love pizza, we love our favorite TV show, we love our spouse. What does Maximus mean by it?
For Maximus, love is defined paradoxically by detachment.
That sounds like a total contradiction. I mean, we think of love as the ultimate attachment. I'm so attached to you, that's why I love you.
In our day-to-day language, yes. But in the spiritual sense that Maximus is using, it's the exact opposite. To truly love God, who is the ultimate unchanging good, you must systematically detach from all the lesser changing goods that compete for your heart's attention.
The matter.
The matter. The text is absolutely brutal on this point. The old man quotes Jesus, "No one can serve two masters. You cannot serve God and mammon."
And mammon. That's usually translated as money, right?
It is, but in this context, it means more than just cash. It stands for the entire material world and our anxious attachment to it, our status, our reputation, our comforts, our possessions. Maximus is saying your mind literally cannot ascend toward God if it is glued to earthly cares.
He uses that image of being glued to things.
It's a powerful image. Think of a hot air balloon. It's designed to fly. But if it's tied down by a dozen thick ropes, it doesn't matter how much hot air you pump into it. You can pray, you can go to church, you can read holy books. But if those ropes of attachment to money and reputation and comfort are still holding you down, you are not going anywhere.
So how do we know? How do I know if I'm tied down? Because I think most of us, if you asked us, would say, yeah, of course I love God more than money. We think we do. But the text gives us a test. A really, really uncomfortable test.
The Job test.
Yeah.
From the book of Job, the old man basically asks the brother, what if you lost it all today? Suppose your bank account was wiped out. Your reputation was destroyed by a lie. Your health suddenly collapsed. Your family turned against you. In that moment, would you still be at peace? Would you still bless God? Or would you be completely crushed? Would you be consumed by anxiety and rage and despair?
If I'm being brutally honest, I'd be a wreck. I would be panicked.
Then, according to Maximus, your real master is still mammon. Your peace is still dependent on your circumstances. And that means you don't yet possess love in the way he defines it. True spiritual love is a state of being where your connection to the source, to God, is so absolute that the gain or loss of created things is just incidental.
This connects so directly to the modern anxiety we started with. We are anxious because we know deep down that our master mammon, the material world, is a terrible master. He's fickle, he's unstable, he can't ultimately protect us.
He can't. If your master is something that can rust or burn or go bankrupt, you will live in perpetual insecurity. If your master is the eternal, you gain a kind of spiritual invincibility. Nothing on earth can truly touch you.
Okay, this brings us to the next level of the challenge. And honestly, this is the part of the text that I found the hardest to even process. It's one thing to say, okay, I should try to be less attached to my stuff. I can get my head around that. But then the brother asks the million-dollar question. How can I love the one who hates me? The enemy, the person who slanders you at work to get your job, the family member who betrayed your trust, the online troll who just wants to hurt you. The brother is basically saying, look, Father, I can try to detach from money, but loving a person who is actively, maliciously trying to harm me, that feels impossible. It feels wrong, like I'm letting them win.
And the old man completely validates that feeling. He says yes to the sense-oriented mind, the mind that is still trapped in the pleasure-pain cycle. It is impossible because that person is the source of your pain. And your default programming screams, avoid pain at all costs, destroy the source of the pain.
So hate is the natural programmed reaction.
It's the default. So the only way to overcome it is to completely reframe the situation. And Maximus offers this psychological reframe that it just blew my mind when I first read it.
The separation of the person from the passion.
Yes. Break that down for us.
Yeah? Okay, so Maximus uses this analogy of sickness. Let's say you have a brother, someone you love, who comes down with a raging fever. He's delirious, he's hallucinating, and in his delirium, he screams at you, he calls you terrible names, maybe he even tries to hit you. Do you hate him?
No, of course not. I might be hurt or scared, but I wouldn't hate him. I would say, it's not him, it's the fever talking. He's sick, he needs help.
Exactly. You feel compassion for him because you see him as a victim of a disease that has temporarily taken him over. Maximus argues we must learn to see our enemy in precisely the same way. When someone is acting out of cruelty or envy or malice, they are suffering from a spiritual sickness. They are burning with the fever of hatred.
So they're not the villain in the story, they're the first victim.
They are the first victim. They are a hostage to what Maximus and the Desert Fathers would call the demons.
Okay, let's pause on that word, demons, because for a modern listener, that word can be a real stumbling block. It brings up images from horror movies, spinning heads and green vomit. It's easy to just tune out. What is Maximus actually talking about here?
I think we can understand it both literally and psychologically. In their worldview, yes, they absolutely believed in malevolent spiritual entities. But even if you want to bracket that and look at it purely psychologically, it works perfectly. Maximus describes the demons as forces of fragmentation and separation. Their entire goal is to divide and conquer.
How does that play out in a conflict between two people?
Okay, let's say I insult you out of envy. The demon of envy is working through me. It has captured me. Now, if you react with anger and start hating me back, the demon has just won a double victory. It's captured me with envy, and now it has captured you with hatred.
We are both sick now.
We're both sick. We're both separated from each other, and more importantly, separated from God.
Wow, that is a chilling thought. If I hate the person who hurt me, I've literally joined the same dark side as the force that caused the hurt in the first place.
You have. You've become a carrier of the same disease. The text is incredibly stark about this. It says flat out, if you hate even one person, your love for God is a lie.
A lie? That's really harsh.
It's harsh, but it's logically consistent with his whole framework. You cannot claim to be united with the God who is love, while simultaneously clinging to hatred in your heart. It's like trying to mix oil and water. Maximus says that holding on to a grudge, nursing a resentment, is like eating your own soul. You think you're punishing your enemy, but you're actually the one rotting from the inside out.
Okay, so practically speaking, what do we do? Because feelings are hard to control. I can't just flip a switch and decide not to feel angry when someone betrays me.
Right, and the old man acknowledges that. Feelings are often involuntary, but our actions are voluntary. So he gives 3 very concrete practical steps to stop the infection from spreading. Step 1, stop your tongue.
Don't gossip about them.
Do not gossip. Do not slander them. Do not go to all your friends and tell them what a terrible person they are. That just pours gasoline on the fire in your own heart.
That's the hardest one, though. Venting feels so good in the moment.
It does, but it just cements the hatred. Okay, step 2. Pray for them.
Seriously, Lord, please bless this person who is making my life a living hell.
Basically, yes. And not just gritting your teeth and saying the words. Sincerely praying for their well-being.
Yeah.
Because it forces you to bring that person in your mind into the presence of God. And it's almost impossible to sincerely ask God to heal and bless someone while you're actively hating them. The cognitive dissonance is just too powerful. It starts to change your heart.
And the third step.
Do good to them. When you have the opportunity, return their malice with an act of kindness.
That is the ultimate rebellion against the pleasure-pain programming. Your system is screaming, hurt them, they hurt you, and you choose to do the opposite.
You're absorbing the blow, absorbing the hate, and you are reflecting back love. You're behaving like Christ on the cross. And that, Maximus says, is how you heal your own soul.
This whole discussion leads us into the next big section of the text, which feels almost like a technical manual for the mind. We've talked about the what, detach from things, love your enemy. Now we get the how, the anatomy of the soul.
Yes. Maximus works with a very specific 3-part model of human psychology. And he says if you want to understand why you're stressed or anxious or angry, you have to understand how these 3 parts are working or not working.
Let's walk through them. What's the first one?
The first is the concupiscent faculty.
That's a great word, concupiscence.
It sounds super fancy, but it just means the desiring part of you. This is your appetite. It's the part that craves things, food, sex, comfort, a new car, a like on your social media post. It's the I want engine.
In modern terms, we might link this to the dopamine system, right? The reward-seeking part of the brain.
Exactly. And it's not bad in itself. We need it to survive. We need to desire food and water. But when it runs wild, when it's unchecked, it becomes gluttony, lust, greed, addiction.
Okay, so what's the medicine for a runaway concupiscent faculty?
Temperance. In the original Greek infraneria, this is more than just dieting or being frugal. It's the deep spiritual discipline of saying no to your impulses. It's training your soul to realize, I can want that, but I don't need that to be okay. It's about cooling down that constant fever of desire.
Got it. Okay, what's the second faculty of the soul?
The irascible faculty.
Which sounds like irritable.
It's related. The Greeks called it thumos. This is the spirited part of the soul. It's your drive, your energy. It's the part that makes you want to fight, to overcome obstacles, to achieve things. It's the fight in fight or flight.
So anger is a manifestation of this.
Anger is what happens when this energy gets corrupted and misdirected. Maximus says this drive was originally given to us to fight against evil, to fight our own bad habits, to fight for justice, to fight against despair. But when we fall, we turn this weapon against other people.
So instead of fighting our own pride, we get into a fight with the guy who cut us off in traffic.
Exactly. Road rage, resentment, bitterness, abuse. We use our fight energy to destroy our neighbor instead of destroying what's wrong inside ourselves.
And then the cure for a corrupted, irascible faculty is?
Love. Love takes that fire, that fighting energy, and it redirects it. Instead of using it to burn your neighbor, you use that same energy to protect them, to help them, to fight for them. You become a fierce defender, not a vicious aggressor.
I love that. It's not about extinguishing the fire. It's about aiming it at the right target.
Precisely. Okay, and the third and final faculty.
The rational faculty. The mind, the intellect, the logos within us.
And what's the primary disease of the mind, according to Maximus?
Ignorance, distraction, what he calls wandering thoughts. I mean, just think about the modern mind. We are fragmented into 1,000 little pieces by notifications and headlines and worries and to-do lists. We can't focus on what's true and eternal because we are drowning in a sea of noise.
And the cure for the scattered rational faculty is?
Prayer. And by prayer, Maximus means much more than just saying words. It means the act of turning the mind back toward its source, recollecting all those scattered pieces of your attention and focusing them back on God.
So if I'm putting this all together, a healthy, integrated human being is someone whose desire is guided by temperance, whose drive is energized by love, and whose mind is focused by prayer.
That is a picture of mental and spiritual health for Saint Maximus. When those three are in harmony, you have inner peace or apatheia. When any one of them is out of whack, you have pathology. If you have a strong drive but no love, you're a tyrant. If you have strong desire but no temperance, you're an addict. If your mind is sharp but have no prayer, you're just an arrogant intellectual.
It's like a diagnostic checklist for your soul.
Yeah.
If I'm feeling stressed out and miserable, I can stop and ask, which of my engines is overheating right now? Is it my wanting? Is it my fighting? Or is it my thinking?
Exactly right.
But I want to circle back to prayer for a minute, because the brother in the text asks a question here that I think every single person listening has asked at some point. The Bible says to pray without ceasing. And the brother's just like, how? How on earth am I supposed to do that? I have to work, I have to cook, I have to live in the world. I can't just sit in a corner chanting all day.
It's the classic dilemma, isn't it? How do you integrate a deep spiritual life with a busy modern one?
And the old man gives this brilliant answer that I think of as a kind of spiritual attachment theory.
That's a great way to put it. He explains that unceasing prayer isn't about constantly saying words in your head. It's about the orientation of your heart. It's about what your mind naturally sticks to.
Give us an example of that.
Think about when you first fall in love with someone. You go about your day, you go to work, you answer emails, you're in meetings. But in the back of your mind, there's this constant warm awareness of that person. And every single time there's a pause in your day, you're waiting for the elevator, you're walking to your car, your mind immediately, effortlessly snaps back to thinking about them.
That's so true. Or on the negative side, if you're terrified you're going to get laid off, every free second your mind snaps back to that fear.
Exactly. And Maximus says, what you love is what you are praying to, all day long. If you truly love money and status, then your mind is constantly returning to thoughts about your investments, your career, what people think of you. You are, in effect, praying to Mammon without ceasing.
So if you truly love God,
your mind will naturally return to Him in the spaces between your tasks. It's not a chore you have to force. It becomes the default resting state of your heart.
there's this beautiful image in the text where he talks about the space between.
Yes. He says the human mind is suspended between two realities, God above and matter below. And it can't look at both at the same time. So to find that place of peace, that unceasing prayer, you have to consciously detach your gaze from the anxieties of the material world.
You have to let go of the rope tying you down.
So that your mind can breathe, as he puts it, the air of the divine. The goal isn't to be saying the Jesus prayer while your boss is talking to you in a meeting. The goal is to love God so deeply that the moment the meeting is over, your mind just naturally floats back up to Him, instead of sinking down into worry or distraction.
That changes the whole goal. It's not about willpower, it's about love.
It's about where your heart's true home is.
Now, up to this point in the dialogue, the tone has been very, I would say, therapeutic. It's about healing and balance and love. But as we get toward the end of the Liber Asceticus, the tone shifts pretty dramatically. It gets darker. It gets much more urgent.
It does. We move from the therapy session to the wake-up call. We enter the section on judgment.
And I'll be honest, this part made me really uncomfortable. The modern ear, my ear, does not like hearing about judgment or hell or weeping and gnashing of teeth. We much prefer the God is love and it's all okay part. But Maximus, and we have to remember who this is, a man who had his tongue cut out for the truth, he doesn't pull any punches here.
He can't. Because for him, judgment isn't about some angry cosmic tyrant who wants to punish people for breaking rules. It's about the simple, terrifying reality of cause and effect. It's about the reality of what we are choosing to become every day.
He uses that powerful metaphor from the Gospels, the wedding garment.
Right. It's from Jesus's parable about a king who throws a huge wedding feast for his son. A guest shows up, but he isn't wearing the proper wedding garment, and the king has him thrown out into the outer darkness.
Which, on the surface, always seemed kind of unfair to me. Like, maybe the poor guy just couldn't afford a new suit.
And that's our modern reading. But Maximus and the fathers interpret the garment not as literal clothes, but as the state of the soul. The garment is the virtues. It's the robe of love, of humility, of kindness, of forgiveness.
So showing up to the wedding feast to eternity without the garment means you've arrived at the end of your life without having actually become a loving person.
Exactly. You spent your whole life invited to the party, but you never bothered to get dressed for it. And the text describes this dirty garment, a soul that is stained by grudges and greed and laziness and cruelty. Maximus then writes this terrifying monologue from the perspective of a soul standing at that final moment, seeing the books open and realizing with gut-wrenching clarity, I wasted it. I wasted my entire life. I had time to change, and I didn't.
I saw the judge and I had no answer. It's chilling.
It's meant to be chilling. It's meant to induce what the fathers called penthos, that purifying, piercing sense of regret.
But why? If the whole point is to find peace, why try to scare us?
Because we are asleep. Maximus knows that human beings are hypnotized by the pleasures and distractions of the world. We live under the illusion that we have forever to get our act together. Oh, I'll forgive my brother later. I'll stop being so selfish tomorrow.
We're spiritual procrastinators.
Totally. The teaching on judgment is the bucket of ice water to the face. It's the fire alarm in the middle of the night. It screams, wake up, your choices matter right now. This is not a dress rehearsal.
He uses that contrast of the sheep and the goats from the gospel. And he points out that the difference between them wasn't what they believed or which church they went to, it was what they did.
It was entirely about their actions. The sheep fed the hungry, they visited the sick, they welcomed the stranger. In short, they loved. The goats, they just didn't care. They were too wrapped up in themselves. The takeaway is so stark. You are building your own eternity right now with every choice you make.
So if you spend your 80 years on earth practicing resentment and judgment and selfishness, you are meticulously building a little hell for yourself. You are becoming a creature that cannot enjoy the presence of love.
That's the real tragedy of it. It's not that God locks the door on you. It's that you've made yourself into a shape that can no longer fit through the door. You don't have the garment of love, so the feast of love would be torture for you.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is heavy. And honestly, if the text ended right there, I think the brother and me, the listener, would just collapse in despair. Like, it's too late. I'm not wearing the garment. My soul is full of stains. I'm doomed.
And that collapse, that moment of despair, is actually the final crucial step of the cure.
What do you mean by that?
Look at how the brother reacts to this terrifying warning. He doesn't puff out his chest and say, okay, I'll try harder, I'll be better. He completely breaks down. He says, Father, I am weak. I have failed. I have no tears of repentance. My heart is hard as a rock. I cannot do this.
He admits total defeat.
He admits spiritual bankruptcy. He finally realizes after this whole long conversation that he cannot save himself by sheer willpower. He cannot manufacture this holy love on his own. He is too broken.
And this leads directly into the final prayer of the text, which is it's just one of the most beautiful and moving things I've ever read.
It is. After all the rigor, all the demanding asceticism, control your thoughts, detach from everything, love your enemies, the entire text ends with this desperate, humble cry for mercy. Do not reject me from your face. You know my weakness. You know that I have no one else to run to but you.
It's the ultimate paradox, isn't it? The text spends 40 pages telling you to work and strive and fight the demons and discipline your mind. And then in the final paragraph, it says, by the way, you can't actually do it, so you have to ask God to do it in you.
That is the core mystery of the entire Christian ascetic tradition. You must strive with every fiber of your being as if it all depends on you. Maximus is not quiet about that, but you must trust with every fiber of your being that it all ultimately depends on God's grace.
It's not, I work hard so I earn my salvation.
No, it's, I work hard to clear the landing pad so that grace has a place to land.
The old man essentially tells the brother, do your absolute best to fight the good fight, but know that your ultimate hope is not in your own strength, which will fail you. Your hope is in the simple fact that God loves you more than you love yourself, and he wants you to be healed even more than you do.
And that is the only place true, unshakable peace can ever be found. Not in being perfect, but in being perfectly surrendered to a perfect God.
So we've been on a real journey here. From the burnout of a 21st century office to a 7th century monastic cell, we've diagnosed the human condition as an addiction to pleasure and a fear of pain. We've dissected the anatomy of the soul. We've even stared into the face of judgment.
It really is a complete roadmap for the human spirit.
If we had to try and boil this whole deep dive down into a kind of treatment plan for the person listening to this right now, the person who's driving to work, feeling that familiar stress building in their chest, what are the key steps for Maximus?
I think you could synthesize it into 4 main movements.
Diagnose the addiction. Be honest with yourself. Recognize that your anxiety is coming from your attachment to things that can and will be taken away from you. Name the hamster wheel you're on.
Practice detachment and forgiveness. Actively work to loosen your grip on things, on outcomes, on other people's opinions. And the hardest part, forgive your enemies. Make the choice to stop drinking the poison of resentment.
Balance the soul. Do that daily check-in. Are my desires running wild? Practice temperance. Is my anger misdirected? Re-aim it with love. Is my mind scattered and anxious? Recenter it with prayer. And number 4, live with urgency and hope. Live like this day really matters, because it does. But when you fail, and you will fail, over and over. Don't fall into despair. Throw yourself completely on the mercy of God. Don't quit. Just get up and return.
There's one final thought from the text that really lodged in my brain. It was a line about the demons. It said that the demons flee from a person who submits to God and resists them with humility.
It's a very powerful image.
And it made me think, we spend so much of our energy fighting our own demons, our anxiety, our depression, our rage on their terms. We try to outthink our anxiety. We try to argue with our depression. We try to fight our rage with more anger.
But fight fire with more fire.
Exactly. But Maximus is saying that's a losing strategy. You have to fight them on God's terms. You fight anxiety not with control, but with surrender. You fight rage not with more anger, but with love. You fight pride.
With humility. The ancient monks had a saying that the devil can imitate almost any virtue. He can imitate fasting. He never eats. He can imitate vigils. He never sleeps. He can even imitate a show of piety. But the one virtue he cannot, under any circumstances, imitate is humility.
It's like kryptonite to him.
It burns him. It's the one weapon he has absolutely no defense against.
The devil cannot understand humility. That's a thought that is going to stick with me for a long time.
It's the ultimate shield.
Well, this has been a heavy one for sure, but I think also a deeply healing one. Saint Maximus the Confessor is not an easy guide, but he feels like a deeply trustworthy one.
Sometimes the best medicine is the most bitter, isn't it? But it's the only thing that actually cures the disease.
Thank you for going on this dive with us, and my challenge to you, the listener, is to try and take just 5 minutes today, sometime today. Turn this off. Turn off your phone. Find a quiet spot, and just try to find that space between that Maximus talks about. Stop looking down at all the matter for a moment and just look up.
Just breathe the air of the divine.
We'll see you on the next Deep Dive.